Houston, Texas. Command Center. Space City. H-Town. The most god-awful humid city on the face of the planet. As denizens of this metropolis alongside the Gulf of Mexico, we view this city as a simple town, where the limelight is virtually non-existent. We usually leave the spotlight to other, quote, deserving and exciting cities like Los Angeles and New York, where practically everything else happens. Well, in this documentary, our goal is to bring to light an occurrence that is taking place all around our town, right under our noses, that is giving us a spotlight in the worst possible way. Whether we like to believe it or not, crimes against humanity are occurring all around us here in our quaint town, and we, as a group, strongly believe that it has to be both acknowledged and put to a quick end. Home to the largest ship channel in America, Houston is a port into depravity. We first wanted to know exactly how the ideas of human sex trafficking and Houston coinciding with each other resonated with the general public. So we first started by surveying a random sample of students at San Jacinto College, as well as a few of the faculty.
Do you believe slavery still exists today?
Yes,
Do you believe it exists in America?
somewhat.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever heard of human sex trafficking?
Mhm.
How do you feel about it?
I think it's disgusting.
Were you aware that Houston is a prominent city that has human sex trafficking?
No.
When?
Do you believe slavery still exists in America?
Absolutely.
How do you feel about human sex trafficking?
It's a horrible thing. It shouldn't be going on at all.
Right. How prominent do you think sex trafficking is in Houston, your hometown?
Considering the port of Houston and everything in this area, I'd say it's a pretty big deal around this area.
Do you guys believe that slavery still exists today?
Yes.
Are you aware of human sex trafficking?
In America? Oh, no, I don't know.
No? Did you know that?
Some of the reactions of the staff were also very insightful and nothing to scoff at.
For us to know that Houston is the #1 city in the United States when it comes to sex trafficking statistics.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that. That's not good. I didn't know this. I mean, this is odd. I mean, I guess I live in a little glass bubble with math and music, and I didn't know this.
So has your opinion of Houston changed now that you know?
Well, I'll just say this. My opinion of a metropolitan area is not necessarily good or bad, but as far as my condition and my realm here, this has been a very fruitful time for me. I mean, I love teaching in this area. I love working at San Jacinto College North. I love my affiliation with Sunset Methodist as a musician. I've met some wonderful people. I guess with every locale, I guess it really depends who you associate with.
As you can see, our questions brought forth very different and surprising reactions from both students and faculty on campus. But, in order to delve into this issue even further, we needed a professional's perspective on this. So we looked to Isaac Villarreal of the Harris County Sheriff's Office to find out more.
So, what regulations do spas in Houston have, if you know any?
Well, the problem with the regulations with the spas is that it's almost like a speakeasy where you have to knock on the door and you identify yourself, or if you're a regular customer, then you get access to it. So it's kind of difficult for anyone to just walk up and go into a spa. And if you can't get access to get into the spa, it's hard to regulate what the spas are, because you have 3 types of trafficking. You have domestic human sex trafficking, which is trafficking within, from state to state. And you have cantina trafficking, which is they're trafficked from Latin America into the cantinas, say the east side of Houston, where you have a large population of cantinas. And then you have international trafficking, which is primarily the Asians, which they're trafficked to these spas or the sexually oriented businesses like that. So it's hard to regulate the spas because it's hard to actually get in unless you're a regular customer or you're referred from someone else.
Okay, all right. Why do you think people are so unaware that sex trafficking is happening here in Houston?
You know, sex trafficking is like the second largest criminal organization, and it's gaining ground. And I think people just aren't aware of it. You know, when kids run away, there's like 6,000 runaways within Houston area alone, and they're contacted within 48 hours of being on the street by what they call a pimp. But I think people just aren't aware of the issues with human sex trafficking, and I think people just say it's as long as it's not my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what the problem is. And right now we're gaining, I'm not going to say popularity, but we're getting more information out there as to the problems with sex trafficking, because it can be your next door neighbor, it can be the business next door, you just don't know. And I think now we're starting to address those issues regarding the sex trafficking.
Okay. What is the punishment for those who are involved?
Well, the aggravated prostitution is a third-degree felony. It depends on the age. I know if it's under the age of 14, if you're trafficking, it's a first-degree felony, which is 5 to 99 years. And if it's just, say you're managing one prostitute, it's a third-degree felony, which is 2 to 10 years. So it falls under umbrella, the state law, under many different types of aggravated prostitution, compelling prostitution, which is you're forcing someone, you're coercing someone, or it's fraud. So it just depends. It can range from third-degree felony to first-degree felony, but more than likely, if you're managing more than 2 individuals,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to get a first-degree felony.
Okay. And are victims punished for their services?
No, they're not. In 2013, when the District Attorney Mike Anderson was elected, he established the first human trafficking group in the District Attorney's office, which was just an investigator and a District Attorney. Now you have 3 District Attorneys and you have an investigator. And right now, since 2013, there's 600 cases that they're handling. And what happens if someone's charged with prostitution and they're the age of 17 and 25? They're referred to a court called Safe Court, which is survivors acquiring freedom and empowerment. And if the thought process is, if we get them in there and keep them out of the criminal justice system and get them the help they need, get them off the street, well then we'd rather do that than just have them come into criminal court, plead for 2 days, and then they're back out there doing it again. And it gives us a chance to actually, establish a bond with them and find out if they're really, what brought them to that situation. Were they coerced? Did they promise them, money, shelter? And it helps us to get them the help they need and find out actually who their pimp is, or they're called sexual managers, prostitution managers. So I think the pimps don't want to be called a pimp because it's kind of an aggressive tone. They'd rather be called a sexual or a prostitution manager.
And the progress from 2013, whenever the division or the department was created, how has it improved since then?
Well, from 2013, it's improved because they've added more district attorneys,
Mm-hmm.
and they've added, they still have that one investigator, and they created the Safe Court. When Mike Anderson passed away, his wife, Devin Anderson, who's the current district attorney, was appointed, and she actually created the Safe Court because she felt there was a need to get someone, the age of 17 to 25 off the street and get them to be more productive in the community, get them the help they need, whether it's, counseling, whether it's getting back into school, getting them back to their family. Because you'd be surprised how many domestic trafficking, how many individuals come from other states, because Houston is the hub.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the I-10 corridor from El Paso to Houston, so there's a lot of trafficking going on between international trafficking.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's a lot of trafficking going on domestically. And so if we can get them back to their family, that's the ideal thing to do, and keep them off the street.
After the interview, Mr. Isaac Villarreal was kind enough to lend us files his team and he have been accumulating over the last few years while investigating sex trafficking in Houston. Needless to say, the facts were nothing short of shocking. According to the Texas Human Trafficking Prevention Task Force, the average age of entry for a runaway averages out to only 12, and that a quote-unquote pimp will approach a runaway girl roughly within 48 hours of leaving home. On a given year, more than 6,000 runaways are present in both Dallas and Houston respectively. From 2012 to 2013, 6 members of a group known as the Gangster Disciples kidnapped and trafficked a 15-year-old girl for 2 weeks for $100 per half hour of quote-unquote service, 5 or 6 times a day. They recently have been caught and are now facing sentencing. With all the facts that we now know about our beloved city, should we even be surprised to hear horror stories of women testifying to being forced into prostitution rings that are happening right under our noses? But what can you and I, regular students, a part of the general populace, do to prevent or hinder this atrocity that's happening all around us? Is there a solution to this problem? For more on that, I'll turn it over to our esteemed colleague Vanessa Moreno, whose government essay inspired us to do this documentary.
The Trafficking Victim Protection Act of 2000 was created to raise awareness at a national level and also to help victims out of the trafficking. However, the act had several problems. Since many victims are abducted from foreign countries and brought to the United States, they are not legal citizens. This means that they do not qualify for the help that the act offers. The best solution to this problem is to properly train officials such as police officers, border patrol, and detectives to detect human sex trafficking victims and traffickers. Doing this will increase the convictions of the traffickers, which would attack the root of the problem. So what can you do? It is important that citizens like you and I report any signs of human trafficking. We must join together and stop this ongoing tragedy in order to make this country and our home a safer place. This crime is serious and can affect anyone, especially young adults like you and I. Hear out those crying voices of victims who are sexually exploited and tortured every day. If you see something, please say something.